is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Today I'm going to answer a question that I've been getting a lot lately. And the question is simply this. Hey John, I want to make some major lifestyle changes in my life and include more fresh fruits and fresh vegetables in my diet. I'm going to start what's called the Living or Raw Foods program. So what appliance would you recommend I purchase first? Should it be a blender? Should it be a juicer? Should it be a food processor or a dehydrator? I only have money right now for one appliance and I can't buy them all, so I'm going to get them one at a time. So which one should I buy first? So I wish the answer was really simple and I could just say, oh, buy that one. But you know, it's not that simple. There are many factors to consider before making your first appliance purchase. So basically in this video, I'm going to share what I've learned over the last 16 years of actually eating a diet that is very rich and actually almost entirely composed of fresh fruits and fresh vegetables. And I do own a blender, I do own a juicer, I also own the food processor and a dehydrator, and actually more than one of each of those. In any case, I'm going to share my expertise with you in this subject and basically explain to you what I would do. So first off, instead of 4 appliances, let's go ahead and reduce that easily down to 2. So the first thing I'd like to say is, a dehydrator might be kind of fun, but you know what? That should be the first thing we X off the list, because the dehydrator, it's not going to let you eat more fresh fruits and vegetables. It's going to let you basically dehydrate fruits and vegetables, which can be good, but definitely eating them fresh, as in their whole state, blended or juiced, is much better. The next thing we get X off the list is the food processor. While the food processor can be handy to chop things up like salads and process things with the S-blade and things like that, it's not going to make a significant impact on how much fresh fruits and vegetables you eat in your diet. So that leaves us with basically 2 choices. Either the blender, and we have today a Vitamix Turbo Blend VS model, and there's a model with the variable speed, or the other item is a juicer. And what we're looking at here today is the Omega 8003 Nutrition Center. This runs at a low RPM, 80 RPM, and it's basically a horizontal single auger style machine. The Omega 8003 is identical to the Omega 8005, but the Omega 8005 is in a chrome plated plastic. And they also have the upgraded models, the Omega 8004 and the Omega 8006. And actually I recommend the Omega 8004 or 8006 over this model for the simple reason it's a little bit more money, but you're going to get 5 years more or 5 years longer on the warranty. So I think it's definitely a good upgrade. Also, the catch bowls are a little bit bigger. But in any case, let's get back to the subject at hand, answering our question, what appliance between these 2 should I buy first? So I wish the answer was really simple. I'd say, oh, buy that one. And then you'd probably get that one. But the answer isn't that simple, because we're all different kind of people. So my answer to that question, the straight up easy answer is, buy the appliance that you're going to use the most that will allow you to eat more fresh fruits and fresh vegetables in your diet, because most Americans aren't even eating their 5 to 9 servings a day like they should be. So if you buy one of these and you're going to use it every day, because if you buy it and it sits on your counter, it's not doing you any good and it's not doing me any good, because then I didn't and haven't done my job to get you to buy the machine that you're going to use the most, but also get you excited about using it. I mean, I've been using these machines for many years now, and I've been getting the benefits of basically being able to include more fruits and vegetables, and actually primarily the vegetables, into my diet because of these machines. And we'll explain that more in just a little bit. So the easy answer is buy the one that you're going to use the most. If you think you're going to use the blender the most, buy that and use it every single day, because it's going to make a lot bigger difference than buying a juicer and it's sitting on the countertop and you're not using it because, oh, that thing's a pain to clean. That being said, I'll mention the cleaning times on both these models really quick. So the Vitamix takes me about under a minute to clean, so that's really fast, but this juicer right here actually takes me under 2 minutes to clean. So that's also really fast. So, what do? Well, I'm still saying, buy the one that you're going to use the most. So what if you want an answer, hey John, give me a better answer than buy the one I'll use the most. Which one is really better? Well, let's go over some of the different features and some of the different pros and cons of each, and I'll explain to you which one I would buy actually at the end of this video. So that wouldn't be fair to say which one's better now until I went over all the pros and cons, because you know what, there are pros and cons to each machine, and only if I explain these to you, you could actually see which one will work better for you in your situation. So let me go ahead and explain the differences now. So with the blender over here, basically this is a high-speed blender, and once again, if you are getting a blender, I only recommend a high-speed blender such as the Vitamix or Blendtec or the K-Tech, they're the same brand name, or another high-speed, high-power, commercial quality blender, because most household blenders aren't going to do the same job as the blender here. So what this blender does, it runs really fast. And when it's running really fast, what it's doing is it's creating a vortex, and you could only blend up things that have a high water content. So if you try to put in, just a bunch of carrots, they're not really going to blend well unless you start to use the plunger and plunge it down into the blade, and then the water is released from those carrots. So generally it's better to add some liquids and then add the carrots, because the blender really needs the liquids to work properly. Otherwise it's really not going to work. So the blender's running there. As it's running, you'll see through the top, it'll create a vortex. So the stuff, it's kind of like a tornado, right? The vortex is basically pulling all the stuff, and it's circulating. It's getting blended up, then it's going up and then coming back down. So it's circulating like a current. And as it's circulating, it's drawing more air into the whole mixture. And as the air is drawn in, the air causes oxidation of the food. So there are, raw food people out in the world that say, blending destroys 90% of the nutrition, so don't even bother wasting your time. Use it as a fun food, but don't use it to heal yourself. Is that true? Well, he's done probably the research, so he says, but then there's other people in the raw foods that say, blending green smoothies is the best thing you could ever drink for your body because you're going to get more greens in you. Well, that's true too, and both of these people claim to have studies that show, blending is better. The other one says, has studies that show blending's no good and juicing's good. Who do you believe? Well, I don't know. Let's get back to the subject at hand. So anyways, blending runs at a lot higher speed, and it definitely does oxidize. Does it mean that what you blended is like no good and it's counterproductive to drink a blended green smoothie and it's just better to eat a McDonald's hamburger? Well, no. I always like to say good, better, best. You always want to try to do the best you can. So, if blending a green smoothie is better than what you would have done, like eat a hamburger, well then it's way better. So the blender also basically gives you the fiber. So Vitamix will claim it makes a total juice. So that means basically you take a carrot, you put the carrot in there, you blend up the carrot, it releases the water or the nutrients out of the cell walls, busts open those cell walls, and gives you the fiber, the juice, and everything in one big kip and caboodle. And you get to drink that up. I do have another video you might want to check for. It's juicing versus blending, where I go into more specifically about the juicing versus blending argument and which one is really better. I'm not really going to cover that here. This focus is, what appliance should you buy first. But in any case, it basically mixes it all up. And, if you take 1 pound of carrots, you're going to get basically 1 pound of carrot mush to drink, or whatever you're going to be blending up. Not to say that that's not valuable. It's probably more valuable to drink, 1 pound of carrot mush than to not eat the carrots at all. But you know what? I don't want you guys to forget about the best juicers of all, even over this one and this one. It's these guys right here. Your teeth are the best juicers of all. If you use them properly, and like chew your food like 200 times per mouthful, you're basically going to do what the blender does at a low speed. So that's what I would say is best of all. Chew your food really well. But the problem with chewing your food is most people don't have time, like gorillas out in nature or pandas that are chewing bamboo. I mean, they literally just eat all day long. So with these appliances, it allows you to basically consume more, especially of the vegetables, that you wouldn't normally eat because it'll break down the fibers for you. So in the case of the blender, it basically ruptures all the cell walls, breaks down the fiber and the juice into one mush, so then you get to drink that. Whereas the juicer, you put the produce in there and it gives you two things. One, it gives you the juice, one, it gives you the fiber. So besides just basically making total juices or smoothies in the blender, it also can come in really handy on a living and raw foods diet For example, I like to actually take my fresh flax seeds and put them in here, turn it on high, and obviously make a flax powder. And then I consume that flax powder. And in my opinion, it's much more valuable to consume the flax powder than to consume the seeds. Because when you basically put whole flax seeds in there, grind them up into a powder, then there's more surface area so you can get better digestion. Plus the other thing is that you only want to grind up enough flax seeds that you're going to eat at that sitting. Don't like go through and grind up 5 pounds of flax seeds and have 5 pounds of flaxseed meal and then eat it, like up to a month later. Because what happens is once you rupture the cells of the flax seeds or even the vegetables, the food tends to oxidize, and especially with the flax meal, the oils can go rancid. So I encourage you to only make one portion for today's meal of the flax seeds if you're going to process flax. Besides processing the flax in the Vitamix, one of the things I use the most in the Vitamix are these few things. Number one, I make smoothies. So I primarily make fruit smoothies in my Vitamix. Sometimes I'll make green smoothies in the Vitamix. The other thing I'll do in the Vitamix is I'll make a blended salad. So sometimes if I don't have a lot of time to eat my salad, I'll literally just pour all my salad dressing ingredients into the blender, blend that up into a nice liquid salad dressing. Then I'll add the salad greens. So sometimes it could be up to like a pound of spinach or a pound of vegetables, leafy green vegetables, into the blender, blend that up in with my dressing, and then instead of me having to like chew all my salad up, it's just pre-mixed. And it kind of tastes a little bit different than a salad would, but that's another thing you can do with the Vitamix to make it easier to save time, especially if I have to run out the door and I'm late for somewhere. I could just blend the salad up instead of having to sit there and chew and eat. Besides the blended salad, what I really like to do in the Vitamix a lot is pretty much every night is I make my salad dressing in the Vitamix. So my salad dressing could be something as simple as fresh squeezed orange juice with raw macadamia nuts, put in the blender, blend it up on high, and basically the Vitamix will turn the macadamia nuts into a nice cream sauce. So in this case it's orange cream sauce. It's actually super delicious to just pour that over a big salad. So in this way, the Vitamix may allow you to get more fresh fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds in your diet because of the features that it does offer. So now let's switch gears and talk about the juicer. So the juicer on this side is the Omega 8003 Nutrition Center. It runs at approximately 80 RPM, so that's revolutions per minute, much slower than the Vitamix. So runs a lot slower, and it definitely oxidizes your juice less, so it's going to give you a higher quality end product than the Vitamix because it is running a lot slower. Once again, the juicer will separate out the juice that's going to come out down here from the fiber. Now, what is the really benefit of that? I mean, if you think about it, we are nothing more or less than juice extractors. We eat stuff, and it goes into us. We're supposed to chew it really well, and then out one side comes the liquid, and the other side comes the solids. So the solids mainly are the fiber coming out, and the fiber is basically the roughage that goes through us. It's like a broom and sweeping your house clean. Kind of goes through and keeps us clean. Now, fiber is required in our diet, so if you are juicing, I also recommend you eat like big salads at night. Some people also like to eat the pulp as their salad at night. I don't recommend that. Some people also like to use the pulp as dehydrated crackers. Actually, I feed it to the dogs, mix it in with their kibble and some chicken soup. They'll eat it right up, then it acts as good fiber for them, plus nutrition for them as well. You can also compost it, feed it to your worms. I'll have another video one of these days on what to do with the pulp. So the juicer separates from the fiber from the pulp. We are nothing more or less than juice extractors. So when you use the juicer to extract the juice and separate the fiber and we drink the juice, then what happens is our bodies are more able to digest that without exerting extra energy from us to get the nutrients out of the food. So the example I could give is after a big Thanksgiving dinner. We've all had those Thanksgiving dinners where you just eat it and you're supposed to like sit on the couch, watch the football game, but you're just so tired because your body, it takes a lot of energy for your body to digest the food you just ate. So as soon as you eat something, your body's having to work to get the energy out of that, but it's expending energy to do that. Now juices, because there is no fiber, it's the easiest thing for your body to get the energy out of. So if you want a quick pick-me-up, in my opinion, the fresh juices are the best. In addition, this juicer, once again, runs at a low 80 RPM, so it's going to oxidize less than the blender. And also, this juicer has multifunction abilities. So besides just juicing, and right now we have the juicing screen installed, but they also have a blank screen that basically doesn't have the holes, and you could use that for making things like nut butters. And actually, if you put whole flax seeds through here with a blank screen, it'll basically make a cracked flax. It won't really make a flax meal like this one will. But the favorite thing to do with this machine is to basically take bananas that are ripe, you peel them and you freeze them in your freezer. You take them out, put them through the machine with a blank plate, and out this end will basically come like a frozen yogurt type consistency. Banana sorbet, 100% bananas. You don't need to add anything to it. It's absolutely amazing. So by using the Omega 8003 Nutrition Center, you can eat more bananas or frozen bananas instead of eating the ice cream that has a mono and triglycerides and the natural flavor and the sugar and all this kind of stuff, and eat more fresh fruits. And I mean, if you really want to get fancy, you could put like frozen mango through there, frozen blueberries with frozen bananas, frozen strawberries. I mean, just check your local grocer for the frozen fruit, section in the frozen department and bring some of that stuff home. Or even better yet, buy your own fruit, cut it up into pieces that'll fit through the machine, and then freeze it, and then bring it out anytime. We're coming up into summer here, and actually that's one of my favorite things to do in the summer when it's really hot outside. I'll come in and use some frozen fruit through the machine to make the sorbet. That being said, you can also do that with the Vitamix. That being said, the Vitamix does tend to liquefy it or get it a little bit more whipped up. So that might be good, might be bad. It does tend to melt faster. So this one doesn't melt as fast because it's a lot more congealed and stuck together. So this also will allow you to make things like nut butters. You could take roasted peanuts through here with a blank plate, or basically give you out basically 100% peanut butter, no mono triglycerides or trans fats or sugar or salt like some of the name brands you buy. And of course the Vitamix will allow you to do that too. But once again, this runs at a much lower RPM, so there's much less heat generated if you are concerned with the machine heating up. So the other thing you might be thinking is, hey John, I've seen videos on YouTube that show using the blender as a juicer, because you could blend up the mixture and then take a sprout bag or a nut milk bag and squeeze out the mixture. Absolutely, you could definitely do that. Let me talk more about that right now. So with the Vitamix Turbo Blend VS, you get the blender, the BPA-free carafe, plus a nice recipe book with over 200 recipes and a DVD. And you also get, for a limited time, you get this nice hemp, and this is actually nice, this is a nice hemp material, hemp nut milk bag. So the Vitamix people call this a nut milk bag for basically blending up water and nuts in here, and then you basically blend it up, put it through the nut milk bag, and then you squeeze out all the nut milk into like a big bowl. But you could also do that with your juice mixture. So you could blend up some carrots and some water, put it in there, blend it up, pour it in here, and then you're basically going to squeeze all the juice out, and all the fiber is going to be left in the bag. So yes, you can absolutely use your Vitamix as a juicer, but let me explain to you why that might not be such a good idea. I mean, if you don't have anything else and you only have the blender, then that might be good. And if it's going to get you to juice, it might be good too. But, blending is one thing, but then when you start putting through this and squeezing out, it kind of gets a little bit messy. Then you got extra stuff to clean, and by that time it's going to probably take as much time as it is to juice it and clean this, juicer up. The other problem with that is that, this blender creates that vortex. So as things are vortexing inside the machine, it's adding oxygen, to your blended mixture. So if oxygen is being added to the blender as you're breaking open the cell walls, that oxygen is basically going to oxidize some of the nutrition that you're creating by breaking open the cell walls. So it's not quite optimal. Whereas this machine on this side, once again, it runs at a low 80 RPM, so that's, thousands of times less than the Vitamix. Runs at a low 80 RPMs and, works fairly slow and just crushes and literally squeezes the juice out. So you're going to get a lot higher quality juice. So this one's going to give you a lesser quality juice. This one's going to give you a higher quality juice. So that's something to consider. If you already have a blender at home, you could definitely do that. And it's probably better to do that than to not do it. But I think overall it's definitely better to use the juicer instead of using your blender as a juicer. So another thing that I want to discuss and talk about is that there are retreat centers and healing centers that take people that have cancer in, a third, fourth stage cancer or whatever, and those people go to those places, and those places feed them primarily fresh juices, so such as the Gerson therapy, such as Hippocrates Health Institute. Those places tend to feed them a diet rich in mostly vegetable juices. They're not making them smoothies for the most part. So I have heard that these programs are healing people with things like cancer and other degenerative diseases by using fresh vegetable juices. And for example, the Gerson therapy, they've been doing it for many years. And now if they found that something was better, they'd probably be doing that. So maybe they would be blending. So that would lead me to believe that the juicer is a lot more powerful, for restoring our health. Once again, going back to the situation that, the juices are much easier to digest because we've removed the fiber so our body doesn't have to deal with it. So once again, I'm going to stick to my guns. Like I said earlier, my recommendation is to buy the machine that you're going to use the most. Now, if I sell you a juicer, even though it makes a lot higher quality, nutrition, but it sits on your countertop because you're like, oh, the juicer's a pain to use, then you maybe should have bought the blender. And I don't know what kind of person you are. Like, if you're the kind of person that, I'll get whatever, does the best and I'm going to use it no matter what, then you might want to go with this. If you're kind of lazy and you're just like, it's kind of hard for you to get motivated about doing something, well, then the blender is going to work a lot easier, and of course this blender comes with the juicing bag. And once again, that in my opinion is not optimal, but once again, it's better than not doing anything, because doing the same thing and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. And hopefully you guys aren't insane. So overall, if I had to just pick one as my one appliance I would buy first, it would be a juicer. And actually, that's what I started out first with. I started out with a juicer before I got a high power blender, because I started juicing basically for breakfast every day and didn't eat my normal breakfast. I just drank fresh vegetable juices, and then I'd have my regular lunch, and then in the mid-afternoon I'd have a mid-afternoon juice, and then I'd have like a dinner with a big salad. So that really made a difference in my life by doing that. Now, if you won't use a juicer, then definitely the blender is better, because once again, you need to get more fresh fruits and vegetables in your diet. So once you do get the juicer, I'd recommend that you juice things like dark leafy green vegetables such as kale, collard, spinach, chard, endive, escarole, dandelion, stinging nettles, magenta spring lamb's quarters, and other greens that have the chlorophyll content. Actually, even juicing sprouts, wheatgrass, and juicing fresh grown baby sprouts in the low speed juicers are all really great, because these leafy green vegetables have some of the highest nutrients in them, like per calorie, compared to any other food on earth. I mean, think about it. All a cow eats all day is grass, and it gets to be whatever 1,000 pounds. Elephants, I mean, they basically eat greens all day, and they get to be huge, and they're super strong and powerful. But once again, those creatures have the digestive systems to break down those greens and get the nutrients from them. Unless we chew really well, we're not able to really get all the nutrients out of that. So that's where the juicer comes in, to basically separate the liquid from the fiber, and that liquid is the liquid gold, or the liquid nutrients that then you could just drink in and absorb into your body. So I'd recommend overall that you juice your vegetables, including the leafy green vegetables that you just heard me talk about. Be sure to check my other videos where I actually teach you how to come up with your own green juice recipe. So that's actually a really cool video I did. You could check it out. Of course, you could also buy a juicing book that may help you, figure out some juice recipes to make. But I recommend you juice your vegetables, and you either eat your fruits whole or you blend them up. So why am I saying to juice your vegetables but eat your fruits or blend them up? Well, it's for one simple reason. When you are juicing your fruits, you're basically removing the fiber. And the fiber acts as the regulator to let that sugar that's in the fruits into our bloodstream much slower. So when you juice fruits, you're getting sugar water. Now that sugar water, once again, good, better, best, that sugar water is way better than soda, a diet soda, or even a pasteurized juice out of the store, pasteurized fruit juice out of the store, because you made it fresh. But nonetheless, I think eating your fruits whole or blending them up is much better to keep that extra fiber in there, so it's going to regulate the sugar into your bloodstream, so you're not going to get a sugar rush unless you need a really quick pick-me-up. That being said, I do recommend that some people, maybe juice an apple or a pear in with their vegetable juices so they're sweeter and more palatable. So hopefully you've learned more about what appliance you should buy first. Once again, the straight up answer is buy the one that you will use more often. That's going to make a significant difference in your life so that you can consume more fresh fruits and fresh vegetables in your diet. So whether it's the blender or the juicer, if you're not going to want to clean the juicer, buy the blender, just use it every day, and it's better than not getting it at all. That being said, if you want the highest possible advantage and the best machine to buy first, I would definitely have to go with the juicer as my number one pick. And actually it'd be a low speed juicer, such as this one right here, because it tends to oxidize the juice the least and give you the most nutrition, especially in a high yield out of the dark leafy green vegetables, and that's what I think we should be juicing the most. So once again, this is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors.